The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It's Monday, the most important day of the week. It is Monday, May 5th. And, we didn't get this, we didn't get it launched in there, huh? Did we? I don't think we did. Did we not get a teleprompter in there?
Happy Mayo, Jason.
Oh, that's all right. Hold on.
I totally forgot about the script, bro. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. I got it right here. Just give me 1 second, you guys. I apologize. Good morning. It is Monday, May 5th, and today is National Silence the Shame Day today, you guys.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. It's also National Astronaut Day. You think that's for Jeff Bezos?
Yeah.
Katy Perry, man. Katy Perry and crew, new astronauts.
Yeah, that's such a joke. Oh, man. It's also Melanoma Monday.
Oh,
That's not a fun
my
day.
holiday.
Yeah,
dude.
That's your holiday?
Yeah, dude. I'm a ginger, man. Melanoma is my enemy.
Yeah. Oh, it's sure not melanin Monday.
It's also it's also National Hoagie Day today.
Oh, yeah.
Just giving out free sandwiches.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Where are the free sandwiches?
Shout out to all the poor boys out there.
Oh.
You see what I did there?
Yeah. I see what you did there.
It's also National Cartoonist Day today, Jesse.
Oh, man. Another one of my days. Melanoma and cartoons. They don't go together, but whatever.
I feel like this is a total ad spend right here. Just so you know, like it's also National Totally Chipotle Day.
Wait a minute, they're trying to get in front of those sandwiches.
That's what I'm saying, and it's well, I think the reason that they did that is because today is also Cinco de Mayo today, you guys. Yes. Yeah, man. I wish.
Isn't Cinco de Mayo a made-up American holiday?
No, it's not. It's not made up. It's a real holiday.
No, Jesse.
It's not like Valentine's Day, Jesse.
Do they actually celebrate it in Mexico?
In New Mexico, they do.
Okay, no, wait. So,
and all along the Gulf of America, they celebrate it.
They won a battle in the French and Mexican War. That's what happened. Okay. I'm looking at my history here.
Jeez, man. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Kick, Facebook, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms this morning, you guys. And we are kicking it off with Miss Jenny Beth Dills, my brand new co-host. And she has Tyler, the creator, on her lap, apparently, this morning. That's right. She is the founder of Kind Cannabis. A business that can help your business keep it on track, whether that's BioTrack or MetTrack. And she also is the founder of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their life back on track. Here, staying on the track, is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Theo, say hi to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Say hi, Theo.
Yes.
Okay.
Theo's very cute.
Theo's adorable.
He's a burner doodle, you guys.
He's a mini burner doodle. He's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jesse Barney, you're gonna love this one. It's for you.
Oh yeah.
Yep, it's for you. There's no Snapchat involved, and that's why you're gonna love it. So, on April 29th, 2025, Stratford Police Department Narcotics, Vice, and Intelligence Detectives, State of Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection officials, and State of Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services officials, and State of Connecticut Department of Revenue officers assembled to conduct compliance checks for the illegal sale of THC and cannabis. Prior to conducting this compliance check, NVI unit detectives received intelligence from a Stratford Police Department school resource officer that multiple Stratford middle school juvenile students were found to be in possession of vape pens. Sorry, dog out of here. It was learned that Stratford Middle... Come here. He needs a vape pen. He needs to chill the fuck out. All right, let's see here. It was learned that the seller would take the money from the students and purchasers while inside the school building and during school hours. Then the student seller would meet the student or purchaser after school off the school grounds and hand over the vape pen that had already been paid for inside the school. NVI unit detectives, along with officials from other assisting the state of Connecticut agencies, entered the Stratford News and Smoke and Vape Shop at approximately 1100 hours to conduct the compliance check. Subsequent to their investigation, Anash Chewicki was transported to the Stratford Police Department and charged with sale of more than 1 kilogram of cannabis and supplying controlled substance without a license. He was issued a May 15th, 2025 court date, and he was released from custody via WPTA. NVI detectives seized a total of 107.546 pounds of illegal THC products, along with $4,355 in cash from the Stratford News Smoke and Vape Shop. So, Jesse, I knew you would like this one because for once these little assholes didn't buy this on Snapchat. And also, can we just acknowledge the creep to the kids, realizing that the transaction being split up probably made a little more sense. But hey, I'll throw it back to you guys, those darn kids.
This sounds like a serious operation going on, Jenny Beth. There's like 4 steps to get the vape.
You know what I mean?
Man.
Damn kids.
Michael, and I want to welcome Michael Minardi of the Minardi Law Office, who's going to be with us on Mondays and Tuesdays now. So now we have legal counsel here with us 4 days out of the week, you guys. So we're pretty excited about that. And so welcome, Michael. And man, this is a serious case. I mean, there's going to be a lot of co-defendants involved in this, ain't there? With all these steps just to get kids vapes.
It is. It seems like it, and a conspiracy, and which enhances punishment, and obviously just continued bad name for the industry, putting a black mark on the industry as a whole, and the people who try to do things correct.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt.
These are the operators they're going after in Florida regularly too.
Is that right? This is what's his name? From Polk County, right? That guy. What's his name?
Oh, Grady Judd.
Yeah, Grady Judd. Yeah, he's got a great YouTube channel.
Oh, he's crazy, man.
This just always goes to my point when we have stories like this.
Is this an East Coast thing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in general, because it's hard for me to put together how they're getting this from the smoke shops. It seems almost like collaborated, like the smoke shop is conspiring with the kids to do this somehow.
Right.
Exactly.
And that was always my point. It's like, come on, we were in high school. We knew which gas station was going to sell us beer and a pack of Newport shorts, right? That we were going to all split in the back lot. Like, what these kids know what store is going to sell things to them. And most of them may not, but some of them will. And so, I have a 6th grader. I would freak the actual hell out. This is insane. But it seems like, I wonder if this owner of this shop has a student at school.
See, there's a couple things going on here. It says that these detectives received intelligence from the police department school resource officer. And then once they talked to the students, because they were found in possession. Then it was learned that they were buying these vape pens from smoke shops, quote unquote.
That's because kids snitch.
Yeah.
Or are they bullshitting and protecting their see, this is where I'm questioning. Are they
Jesse
bullshitting
wants it
and
to be on
protecting-
Snapchat so fucking badly.
Well, I just know my kids and their friends, they would never do this because it's way easier to order their things on Snapchat and Telegram. So it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is probably happening from the 10-step process that it took for these kids to get a shizzy vape is kid A goes to school, meets up with kid B, gives kid B his $40 or whatever. Then kid B gets out after the bell, goes down to the smoke shop that probably isn't far away from the school, grabs the said vape pens, and he's like, all right, I got you, bud. I don't know, maybe kid B, the trapper, has like a mustache or something and looks a little older. I don't know.
You know what? I can tell you this.
There's another middleman that's not getting reported here.
Oh,
Well,
boy.
I remember when I was a kid and we used to, procure illegal things from stores that we weren't supposed to have. Generally, the store that would sell the stuff usually would only deal with like one or two of the kids. Right, would only deal with one or two of them, and that's the only ones that they would sell to, and so they ultimately became the kingmakers to all the other kids because they were in essence the plug.
That's how that worked with us too. Yeah, I mean, you can't have like 97 12-year-olds running through your.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
We had mostly either myself or one of our friends always had older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an easy little ticket to get alcohol whenever we wanted, kegs, whatever.
So quick question. This was a vape shop, not a dispensary.
Yeah, correct.
Vape shop, yeah.
So,
Yes.
So then it is not a black eye or a smear on the industry because this is not the industry.
In fact, they end up literally saying it's the Stratford News smoke and vape shop. So it was one particular vape shop.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Yarrow. You gonna get your
Hey,
makeup
Jenny.
on? You gonna get your makeup on so I can see you this morning? What's going on, Bubba?
Hey, what's your question, dear?
Nothing, Yarrow.
She misses you.
Well, so, I do. I miss you. I truly miss you. And this story is for you too, because I know how much you love judging hardware.
I mean, I'm thoroughly prepared to judge anybody who doesn't believe that this is an age-restricted product outside
That's
of the
good.
care of a physician.
Yeah,
That's good.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure how it made it onto the docket for news to cover, though, because it doesn't seem like it's particularly unique or grand in scheme. But I mean, hey,
No.
we can chop it up and, shame
you
the
wanna-
smoke shop a little bit.
If you want to discuss my story selection, I can go ahead and give you where my head was at. One, I wanted Jesse to get one where a kid got a vape pen not on Snapchat. Two, I thought it was really interesting that the kids had the foresight to be like, bring me the money at school. I'm going to meet you up the block after school to give you the product. And, I think it was important to acknowledge that, yes, people will sell your kids drugs, parents. We seem to forget that.
I feel like there is a middleman here. What's happening, it looks like to me, is that the kids are handing some kid money. He's got an older brother that he's Snapchatting or Telegramming who's the real plug, who's going and getting the things during school hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're meeting after school and then making 2 transfers. Because why not? Why the wait? They have to go get them. That's what's going on here.
You remember that whole thought pattern that it's not really a drug deal if I didn't hand you something when you handed me something?
Exactly.
I feel like that kid's on that workaround right now, and honestly,
Yeah, they're
I'm a
trying to
little
do something like
impressed.
that. Yeah, there's
I'm
multiple things
disgusted, but I'm
going on.
impressed.
It definitely sounds like possibly a vape cart cartel involvement in this situation.
Not anymore. Stratford News smoke and vape shot going down.
Damn.
This was fun.
107 pounds of illegal THC products.
Well, yeah, that was also, I'm like, at least they weren't like, we got 6 vapes and 2 packs of pre-rolls. Like, at least there was something there. This guy was doing his big one.
Let's just see what they actually mean by illegal THC products. So, that's a gray area around the country with regards to hemp and what is and what is not hemp right now. So we're dealing with that pretty regularly here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot for one smoke shop.
No, it's not, bro, because they weigh all the packaging and everything, and if anything was in a glass jar or something, they're including that in the weight and everything. So
that's silly.
Yeah, that's
It's still a box.
That's how they get up there, you know, because they believe in they still believe in the theory of the bigger the bust, the bigger the boost.
Well, even if it's a quarter, if they had like 30 pounds of actual material out of the 100, let's say 75 plus is packaging.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a lot for one vape shop, because it's probably mostly vapes.
That's a good name for a vape shop.
Mostly vape.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly vapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you think each cartridge is only a gram or a half a gram each, you know, they'd have to have a lot to have the amount of milligrams that a lot of places say that they have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially in the vape carts when they're in glass and stuff like that. We deal with that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And a client get charged with possession with intent for a mason jar with like a half a gram of wax on the bottom of it, but they weighed the whole mason jar, so it was 963 grams or something like that. You know,
exactly what I'm talking about.
It's common.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially the initial reports, because the cops on the scene aren't actually really weighing anything. They're just guesstimating and putting it in their initial probable cause report, and then later it gets sent to a lab and actually weighed and stuff, and they have a good good attorney. They actually challenge the weight, you know, so it's good for publicity. That's what Grady Judd all the time does.
Yeah, he is great at his little grandstanding. And on that, we are going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility, so you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Yes, and we are back, you guys. We are
Coming up next, we got the High at Nine head honcho, my best friend, Jason Beck.
Oh man, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday out there, you guys. Man, you know, Yarrow, you know, I think you're gonna have the most to say about this one, Yarrow. I think so. That's my guess, because Governor Gavin Newsom's 26% cannabis tax hike is now official, you guys. It's like a referee's whistle. The state of California plans to increase pot taxes to the highest level allowed by law. California beleaguered pot industry was given another piece of bad news on Thursday afternoon. The state cannabis tax rate will increase from 15%, which is really 27%, to a 19%. Which puts it over 30% on July 1st, the highest allowed by state law. The 26% change devised by Governor Gavin Newsom is ironically being made precisely because the state's legal industry is floundering while the illicit market thrives. Representatives with the California Department of Tax Fee and Administration announced the gross receipts tax hike during a cannabis advisory meeting on Thursday, and state law requires the department to increase the pot tax rate this year if cannabis excise revenues fails. Jared Kelo, the president of the United States Cannabis Business Association, said the tax increase will only make it harder for legal stores to offer cannabis at a price point that competes with illegal stores. In a quote, more businesses will close sooner as the legal price is just too far away from illegally obtained products. Less investment is in starting or continuing cannabis operations will occur, and demand for cannabis licenses will decline exponentially, Kelo said. Cannabis tax revenue has plummeted as the legal market goes through a financial contraction, with thousands of companies going out of business, and industry leaders have blamed the legal market struggles on expensive regulations, high taxes, and competition from the thriving illicit market, which pays no cannabis taxes. Well, duh, because it's the illicit market. A recent study funded by the state found that a majority of cannabis users still purchase their cannabis from the illegal market, and the tax increase is thanks to a law that Governor Gavin Newsom signed back in 2022 that removed a cultivation tax, but also required the state to increase cannabis tax rates if revenues fall in the future. San Francisco Assembly member Matt Haney introduced a bill this year that would block the tax hike, and the bill is working its way through the legislature and unanimously passed its last committee vote on April 24th. Amy O'Gorman Jenkins, the executive director of the California Cannabis Operators Association, said in an email to SF Gate that cannabis businesses already can't afford to pay the 15% rate tax, let alone operate under the impeding tax increase. And a quote says, "We are urging the legislature and administration to act quickly and freeze the tax at 15% if we want to regulate a market to survive in California. The time to intervene is now," O'Gorman Jenkins says, you guys. Well, I couldn't agree more. This is totally ridiculous that they're putting this tax in place, and the market is struggling, and yeah, let's just do a tax increase, and it's just asinine to me. But that's what we get out of Sacramento lawmakers, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Taxation is theft.
It is. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so that's just the industry's struggling. We're begging for help, and you come and just kick us in the dick. I don't even understand where he thinks this money's coming from. Look at the number of actual operators that are paid up on their taxes already versus the number of operators who are on these long, egregious, drawn-out payment plans with the CDTFA because we're already so heavily taxed. This is just, it's insane to me.
Yarrow, I know you got something to say about this. I know you want to opine on this.
First of all, this is the exact type of policy that gives Republicans cover when they talk about Democrats having sort of a tax and spend mentality.
Yes, they do.
And in addition, we already know that the way to grow the market is to lower the costs, increase the chance the entrepreneurs will have a fighting chance to have their businesses around next year, and that if there's no margin in business, there's not going to be many businesses. So they're suffocating the regulated industry. And this is something that has come to roost, but was really based on yesteryear's policy, because when they reduced the taxes in the past, the way that they were able to convince all the policymakers and lawmakers to reduce those taxes was under the auspices that the total volume of tax wouldn't go down, even though the tax rate would go down. And so because that didn't work, i.e., you fucked up, and that's not what actually happened, it yo-yoed the taxes back up. And so this has been in the making for a while. The challenge is that the DCC wants to be cost neutral. Like many permitting entities, they want to make sure that the fees they take in cover the cost of that department, whatever you want to call it.
The overhead.
The cost of
the overhead.
Business.
Yeah.
So the biggest problem with this is that the voters who passed Proposition 64 and decided that adult use would be a reasonable policy for California likely did not know that passing that meant that the tax revenue from that regulated industry was going to be used for things like prohibition. So the DCC does a variety of functions under its mandate, not just licensing dispensaries, but also enforcing against unregulated cannabis. So imagine the circular firing squad that this creates. Hey, I'm going to take taxes from regulated cannabis and use that to enforce against unregulated cannabis. And if I can't break even, I'll just start taxing the regulated industry more so I can enforce against the unregulated industry more. Like, you don't have to be a public policy major like I was. Thank you very much, Swing, to know that that's the dumbest shit ever. And so there is no solve that is going to include eviscerating the potential profitability of the still, California's regulated market is shrinking. Year over year sales is going down, not up. It's not because people are using less cannabis. It's because this experiment in legalized weed was built on faulty. It's to me, it reminds me of how they built Venice, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's this great town, but it's like built on water, right? And so they built this regulated cannabis paradigm with the idea that these taxes were going to be a benefit to everybody, and they allocated them like a drug dealer does with a big bag. Oh, you get a little bit for Mothers Against Gun Trafficking. Oh, we're going to put a little bit towards parks. Oh, we're going to put a little bit towards police overtime. Oh, we're going to put potholes for pot, right? We're going to improve our roads. And so they sliced up the taxes so that there are so many stakeholders that benefit from the taxes that nobody's willing to, except for the operators in the industry, see the elephant in the living room and say, this don't work. By the way, it's Jared Kilo, not Kilo. It's the lady who used to run the DEA, Milligram. There, you didn't mispronounce it. And Amy Jenkins is a lobbyist. So executive director of whatever new organization was just recently put up now that she has fractional interest in a dispensary in Sonoma aside. She's very skillful and experienced at creating and amplifying talking points for the industry. She was the lobbyist for CCIA, California Cannabis Industry Association. But really, on this one, I could have been the lobbyist because these talking points are so obvious. All we're saying is that it's bright out when it's sunny and it's dark out when it's the evening. And if anybody with a straight face who's watched what the rollout in California has looked like can say that increasing taxes is going to be a net benefit for any stakeholder, well, they're absolutely disingenuous.
Long commentary.
Yeah, very, very good job there, Yarrow.
Yeah, I think it is the stakeholders that it helps is the illegal and the black market, right?
Exactly.
It just makes no sense. They continue to push people away from a tax market by increasing the prices, 3 times, then expect to reduce the black market. They're just continuing to fund law enforcement, in order to fight against what seemingly, and I thought Californians liked cannabis, but what they don't like. In Florida, that makes sense, right? Doesn't seem to make sense in California.
But does it?
Right.
That's a real question.
Yeah, it does.
Yes. Speaking of that, we're going to keep this train rolling. We are going to roll right in to Mr. Michael Minardi. Michael Minardi is from the great red state of Florida. He's an attorney who has been fighting for patients' rights and legalization of cannabis for over the past 15 years. And his firm is known as the Minardi Law Firm out there in the great red state of Florida. It is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi himself.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be a part of this show. And we're going to dive into that great state of Florida and the insanity that we're doing going against democracy here, right? The free state of Florida has more restrictions and rules than any other state in the country. Governor DeSantis signs bill for tougher citizen amendment process in Florida. And I can tell you this is something that I've been intimately involved with, in 2018 and 2020. I ran ballot initiatives for Regulate Florida for the legalization of cannabis in the state of Florida for adults 21 plus that included home cultivation. And even back then, the ballot initiative process was difficult. Since we have passed medical marijuana here in the state of Florida in 2014, 2016, we actually passed it, which already has to include a 60% vote. Our legislature has continued to make that ballot initiative process more and more difficult, and then blames the sponsors and the citizens who are collecting initiatives and petitions for the problems with invalid or incorrectly filled out petitions. So this article, which is the first bill that Governor DeSantis signed into law after the legislative session here in 2025, makes it more difficult for citizens to get constitutional amendments on the ballot. It raised the minimum wage to $15 and allowed for the use of medical marijuana. Those are 2 initiatives that this amendment is trying to prevent from happening. And as we know, we had legalization on the ballot in 2020, which won in most states with 56% of the vote, but here in Florida, we need 60%. So it's already working for the 2026 election. So they've already put over $20 million into it. So the governor is trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. He has been against legalization here in the state of Florida. The House and Senate earlier had been odds over what point in the signature collection process would have to register as a petition circulator and take a 2-hour online training course. The measure bounced between both houses and then was passed on May 1st and had a final vote in the Senate of 28-9. He called for the new regulations on the constitutional amendment. This is DeSantis, and he asked for this and tried to get this done in a special session earlier this year, which the Republican House denied. After his Office of Election Crimes and Security issued a report finding rampant fraud by backers of abortion rights initiative in 2024, the pro-initiative Florida's Protections Freedom for Political paid $164,000 in a settlement over fraudulent signatures. The legislature responded to DeSantis' call with a measure that requires groups sponsoring ballot initiatives to put up a $1 million bond, as well as shortening the time for submitting signatures and increased financial penalties for violation. And this situation was already insane, and it compounds the problem, kind of like what they just did in California with raising the taxes. They're making the timeline for petition gatherers shorter, so that doesn't give the sponsors the ability that these petitioners are turning in and decide which ones are valid or not, and actually do their own enforcement on getting rid of and weeding out the bad actors. This does an amendment. It reduces it from 30 days to 10 days. So within 10 days after that signature is placed on a ballot by a registered voter, they have to turn it into the Division of Elections for counting. And they have to pay for each signature. So the only people that are really getting screwed in this amendment and with our current legislation is the sponsors for ballot initiatives, because it gets more and more expensive. Outside estimates suggest DeSantis have spent anywhere from $20 to $100 million in taxpayer money to successfully oppose last year's initiatives to create a state right to abortion and adult use of marijuana. The one good thing the bill does is it does prevent any government funds from being used in order to prevent against these types of issues. Democrats warn the new legislation will effectively end citizens' abilities to enact policy changes when the legislature refuses to act. Groups have used the initiative process since 1968 to limit the number of students in classrooms, ban offshore drilling, and restore voting rights to felons. This is a Stop Any Citizens initiative from ever appearing on the ballot, Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith said. Among other things, the bill shortens times they have to submit, and it provides increased fines as much as $2,500 and up to $15,000 if it's discovered that someone collecting signatures have been convicted of a felony. And we had a lot of problems with this during the signature collecting process, because when you have a situation that people are paid hourly to collect signatures, they have an incentive to be able to get more signatures per hour. And it really causes a problem. So it increases the $1 million bond. It requires all petition circulators to be Florida residents, and I can tell you a great majority of these jump between states, including California. $15,000 fine for a non-citizen or convicted felon to collect or handle petition initiatives. It lowers the amount from, again, 30 days to 10 days. Revises penalties for late submissions from a flat fine of $50 daily to up to $2,500. And it triggers Crimes and Security and the Division of Elections to issue an investigation when 10% of the voters revoke their petition signature. So this is also what it requires to do. After the petition sponsoring company submits the petition to the Division of Elections, the Division of Elections then sends a certification to the voter confirming that they, in fact, signed the petition, and they can opt out and say no, that they didn't, and send it back to the Division of Elections, and that triggers that. So they made this initiative possible. I believe Smart and Safe put in almost $100 million last year to get legalization on the ballot, and this has continued to thwart the rights of citizens when over 56% of the population already support legalization. Our legislature is preventing legalization, trying to institute new hemp laws to dampen and destroy that industry and prevent citizens in the state of Florida to have the right to vote on important initiatives like this. And it's the only reason why we got medical marijuana. I don't think we'd have it here in the state of Florida. And I'm just hoping that we're able to have legalization on the ballot here in 2026.
Well, Florida, man. So, Michael, am I correct on this? You said that in this new law that you cannot be a felon and collect signatures.
That is correct. And, I've represented people in the ballot initiative process before, and this really, I think, offends the First Amendment. The collection initiative process is right under the First Amendment. And I think that this really offends the First Amendment, and the ability to go out and try to change laws through, democracy. And this is the most fundamental form of democracy.
I mean, let's just call it for what it is. DeSantis is arguably one of the two worst Republican governors in the country, and real Republicans would lynch him or at least run him out of the party. The idea that you would put a restriction on trade by making a further consequence to felons who are now not able to take on gainful employment is egregious, right? And that's just the tip of the iceberg with this thing. He's a terrible governor, has been for a long time. You've defended him once in a while. It's okay, Jason. It's the sign of a
I like him as a governor. I don't agree. Yeah, I don't agree with everything.
This is a terrible governor. He clearly doesn't work for the people, because when you add barriers to entry to participate in democracy, like the $1 million bond, like the average grassroots campaign has $1 million bond they can put up in order to be able to get signatures on the ballot, and then you compress the time frame. The only way when you compress the time frame to 10 days that any entity can be successful in doing that is if they're very resourced. So what he's doing is just a further erosion of the idea that democracy is for all, and he's helping to create barriers to entry so that democracy is for the resourced.
That's one thing I didn't mention about it, and I think that this is one of the worst things about it, is someone who's a volunteer, right? Even if you're a volunteer, it prevents a person who is not a paid circulator to possess more than 25 signatures, 25 petitions that doesn't include your own family and immediate family. So it basically eliminates volunteers from going out and doing this process as well. And we had a lot of volunteers. We collected hundreds, not thousands of signatures for the first, second, and Amendment 2 petitions, and then obviously volunteers throughout the state at events and things like that. So, that is a destroyer of democracy.
Yep.
I totally agree.
Real Republicans, like real Democrats, need to weed out those in their party whose behavior and policies do not conform with the planks and ideals that the parties say they stand for. And we've got it on both sides.
That's fair. We definitely do have it on both sides. I do agree with that 100% all the way, all day, Yarrow, on that. And it's just like too, Michael. With the misappropriation of him using those Medicaid funds to pay for ads against the Amendment 3 in the first place. That was a big mistake that he shouldn't have done too.
Yeah, and then the rest of it get donated to his wife's nonprofit.
Yeah,
DeSantis is having a lot of problems in the party right now in the state. Very interesting. The first time they've ever kind of not just bowed down and done everything that he said.
Yeah, Yeah.
Well, because you can't at this point. If you do, you look like the jackass that you are. Like, it's gotten so egregiously out of control that you can't just go along with it blindly anymore.
Well, yeah, because you'll ultimately become like Kim Rivers' husband. I mean, it'll ultimately just become the fall guy.
His husband did some bad stuff too, but let's not get into that. That's
I see what you did there, but I think we need to ask the people do more, right? It's no longer enough to go from supporting DeSantis to not supporting DeSantis. If Republicans who care about the longevity of the party and the integrity that they think it stands for care about investing in the party, they got to get him out. He's inconsistent with the core values that most of those party members profess to represent and promote.
That's I think I agree with you on this, Yarrow. I think they do need to get some kind of rescue mission going on and get this guy out of there.
He's the Chomo of rhinos.
He
cannot be tolerated on the yard.
Yep. It's a good thing.
Turns out in 26, and we'll see if his wife gets elected or not.
Oh, I don't think his wife stands a chance to get elected. But I mean, she definitely knows how to raise money, and on that, we're gonna roll and switch into some commercials, and we're gonna be right back.
Love Santa Rosa.
Oh, yeah. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And if you're feeling a little thirsty and you need to put a little pep in your step, then use the link in our bio and order yourself some Liberal Tears. 150 milligrams of caffeine in every can. You know, snowflake free and guaranteed that no liberals were hurt in the production facility at all whatsoever.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
To run an errand 3 times in a row.
Oh, man. And we are
should have
back.
done it right the first time. Ugh.
You hear how they are, Yarrow?
Are you on camera?
You hear how they are, Yarrow? Should we go to Jesse first, Yarrow? Or should we? Are you gonna?
Sure, do that.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna roll into the brand new grandfather himself, Mr. Jesse Barney. He's the founder of Barney Design Co. and can help bring your brands to new plateaus of the highest heights for some of the highest brands. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
Yes. Thank you. My article comes right out of Spokane here, where I'm at today. Comes out of the Spokesman Review. It's a little bit funny because it is an opinion piece because they quote this SNL skit that's 50 years old. But they foreshadowed the change in Washington's cannabis laws. So the legislature is capable of many things, but here's something no one could have predicted in January. It managed to prove that Saturday Night Live was about half a century ahead of its time back in 1977. Almost 50 years ago, SNL's original cast did a takeoff on what was a then familiar ad campaign, the International Ladies Garment Workers Union television commercials, where a group of actors urged viewers by song to look for the union label when you were buying that coat, dress, or blouse. Instead of the Garment Workers Union, however, the SNL cast was singing as the American Dope Growers Union. That's actually a great name. We should make that happen. The Lorraine Newman urged people to forsake marijuana from Mexico or Colombia and stick with the stuff that was grown on good American soil. Look for the union label when you were buying that joint, liter, pound. Back then, the prospect of marijuana so legal that people who grew it not only wouldn't get arrested but could be in a union was part of the joke. Washington voters wiped out the first part of that joke in 2012. This year, the legislature approved and Governor Bob Ferguson signed a law allowing agricultural workers in the state's marijuana industry to form unions. As further proof that legal pot is mainstream, supporters included the Food and Commercial Workers Union. The folks speaking against weren't police or the Drug Enforcement Administration, but included the corporate marijuana interests, the Washington Cannabis Association, and folks leery of the union certification process. Opponents also worried about the oversupply of marijuana and the added cost of unionization, making them less competitive with illegal pot. Actual marijuana growers unions may be a ways off in Washington, but when they form, they may want to take a page out of the SNL playbook and urge customers to shop union pot. The legislature also approved on a partisan vote allowing union workers who go on strike or are locked out to receive some unemployment insurance payments during a labor dispute. Not surprisingly, this was applauded by various unions and organized labor associations. It did not sit well with business organizations, government associations, and school districts. The proposal changed over the legislative process, and the final version limits benefits to 6 weeks that can't be paid until after the second week of a strike or lockout. If the strike is later found to be illegal, like a teacher strike or a government worker strike, the benefits will also have to be paid. There's a 10-year limit on this law, so if Ferguson signs that bill, it will end in 2035 unless the legislature extends it. So, unions have been approved in Washington state. If you work in the cannabis industry, you can form a union and you can now strike or lock out. And if he finishes and signs this other part of the bill, you'll be able to get 6 weeks of pay after the second week. So it's an interesting development that's happening here in Washington. I don't think there's any other state that's done anything like this. And I'm open to hearing what people have to say, especially interested in Yarrow's opinion and Jason's opinion on unions and the cannabis industry.
I just feel like union weed is going to taste so terrible, bro.
No, it's going to have hints of Hoffa.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is that, you know, unions are a byproduct of capitalism on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have workers' rights, unions are forced to exist. We talked earlier about how in Florida, people were pushing back against raising the minimum wage to $15. So workers are still as vulnerable today as they were when unions became a solution for the disproportionate bargaining power between big companies and small people. The problem with unions in cannabis is unions want a piece of the pie before there's any pie to eat. And instead of flexing their considerable political power preemptively to earn their place at the table by advocating for a reduction to taxes and therefore demonstrating to the industry what they could continue to do for the industry, they want to pay place at the table when there's no money left. There's nothing left. Bud tenders already don't make much. There's no profit for entrepreneurs. And so unions, instead of leading with contribution, assumed that this nascent industry getting turned on would be another industry where they could just come and participate. And that hasn't worked that well. And even with the collective bargaining agreements that were a requirement for many of the permits that people got, I can't point to a single place where the unions have done an incredible job. That said, it's easy to bash on unions.
Mhm.
The Republican Party has spent the last 40 years trying to dismantle the previous progress from the previous 40 years of unionization. And the truth is, until people aren't going bankrupt for getting cancer, collective bargaining rights are still important, because the average employee isn't going to be able to go in and get their best deal unless they're all united. That said, there's a lot of unions that have a lot of fat at the top.
Mhm.
And so there has to be omnidirectional accountability.
Mm-mm.
Nice use of the word omnidirectional.
Yeah. He's you know, he's with it today. He's got, you know what I'm saying, he's got some pep in his step today. Apparently, he must have had a good weekend.
Had too much coffee and he's grandstanding, but I love you, Yarrow.
Yeah.
I mean, you can push back against that. First of all, the love is mutual.
Yes.
This is only my first cup. And where do you think I'm grandstanding?
Mm-hmm. Where do you? Well, first of all, you always stand on a pedestal when you grandstand, because we know, you know what I'm saying.
Make sure you reach, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure, you know what I'm saying, you can see everybody and we can all see you. But I would tell you,
I could see good and bad out of this. I mean,
all right,
there is plenty of misuse of cannabis workers. There's plenty of things where cannabis workers are in dangerous situations, especially in processing, where they're breathing hash particles and trichomes and leaf dust and all kinds of things that are in the air if they're in a trim situation or various other situations. And they should have an ability to force action in those scenarios. But I also agree with Yarrow. There's a lot of fat at the top of these unions, and they bloat and grow to where if you're in the management or you're in the upper part, you know, you kind of get these extra advantages and you benefit from the union, whereas the people at the bottom of the union, not necessarily. So I could see it going both ways. I do think that the cannabis industry has to do something when it comes to safety, worker safety, and things like that.
I do totally agree with you on that, Jesse. I'm just not sure if unions are the way to go. And then, you know, it always comes back down to, you know, if you're an employer and you're providing good things and a quality workspace for your workers, then you know what I'm saying, then there's no need for a union. But the reality is we do have a lot of bad actors out there. I mean, and you know, we witness a lot of things. We cover a lot of bad situations that employers do to their employees or put them in, you know, compromised situations and whatnot over time. And so I'm not sure if there's necessarily really a need for it, because ultimately the unions just get abused just like everything else. And you know what I mean? It creates this whole other power structure. And then all of a sudden the employees are putting their money in to this union that they're not really getting any benefit out of, and they're already paid a low salary. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily the answer, but you know, I'm willing to entertain a few things.
Here's the litmus test for where people reside on the political spectrum. Typically, people on the right tend to regurgitate anti-union sentiment. But then you ask them about police officer unions, and they start stammering like seals. So if we really think there's a problem,
well, first of all,
unions,
I've never said that I'm in favor of them.
Agencies are heavily unionized, right? So whatever our policy is, it needs to have parity across all.
I'm with you. I'm not for the police unions either. So like I have no problem with that. I'm not in favor of them.
Large diffs. Like I've always said, the only unions, like the only time where I'm like, this makes sense. Steel workers, shit like that. When the conditions in warehouses were so that Steve might get his leg cut off on a Tuesday at 9 a.m., right? Being a bud tender is not being a police officer, right? I don't think that police officers necessarily need a union either. But if your job might include you getting shot at, reasonable.
Well, bud tenders can get shot at too. Your analogy is totally flimsy.
Not with the same opportunity that a cop does. A cop literally wears, you know what I mean? Like, it's different. And I don't think that unions are going to be the answer. Like, what do you get with your union? You get a steward to come in on the day you get fired.
Better health insurance.
And then it's not going to do it. Health insurance.
Better health insurance. Sustainable wages.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
They
I'm not buying that one
currently, right?
Yeah, right. Then they're going to pull a chunk of it out.
Yep.
So that they can sit there and buy donuts on Tuesday.
A big old chunk.
Cops buy donuts on Tuesday?
I'm talking about the union.
You have any thoughts on this, Michael, before we move on? think you might be on mute, Michael. There we
My
go.
issue is I think it continues to legitimize the industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and because this is kind of something that occurs in all mainstream businesses, and has been an issue for years, and I think it just legitimizes the industry as a need, and see that these protections happen, whether or not you agree with unions or not. I think it just shows progress for the cannabis space and legitimization of it.
I mean, yeah, it's a nice, cute logo for them to masquerade with. I agree with you on that, Michael. That part is true. It looks, it looks cool. It looks appeasing. It makes it unions.
I mean, I can say I've been to a lot of places in Washington. I've been to a lot of places in California, manufacturing and otherwise. And Washington has some pretty shady things going on behind closed doors in these manufacturing and processing facilities. So that's the thing that I continue to worry about is the people working in these situations. They're not safe. They're not mandated to have things. They don't have great ventilation. It's just not always a great situation. So it's like, if there's no union, what else would be the answer?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Well, it's just
I don't really see a great answer for them. A lawsuit.
Yeah, private individual lawsuits, which is a lot more difficult for people if they have to fund it. I think there's at least 2 lawsuits here in the state regarding one of our operators and conditions and work environment as well.
Which one?
It's truly.
Yeah,
Of course it is.
Of course it is. We all knew the answer to that.
That was an easy layup for you.
There are the things that govern, especially in those more manufacturing type environments, right? You're still beholden to OSHA requirements. You're still beholden to a lot of these things. You have to have pesticide training, applicator training, train the trainer certifications. I teach those classes. Like, there are a lot of things that could be written into the regulations that would mandate these programs that already exist to protect workplace safety, right? We just don't look at it like that. Put your hand out. I'll let you know when I'm done. I know you want to go next. I think that there are other ways to address this without having to unionize, and that's just my opinion. Go ahead, Yarrow.
I had no idea you were the arbiter of my body language today, but be that as it may, I think the other point I would make about unions in the cannabis industry is unions, in my opinion, made a faulty strategic decision to focus on unionizing retail instead of the top of the supply chain and focusing on unionizing farm labor. And if we look at the positive, the pure, the noble pursuits of unionization more recently in this country, I think we could agree that farm labor is a place where unions have helped those who've been working in the sun for 12 hours, who need rest and bathroom breaks and protection from sunstroke. And we think about people like Cesar Chavez, who unionized the grape pickers. And so to not focus on the place in the supply chain where they could provide the most employee protection benefits and advocacy, and to focus primarily instead on the bud tender. To Jenny's point, that's probably not the highest risk job. You might be more likely to get a paper cut than anything else. To not focus on labor and agricultural labor, I think was a huge miss for unions. And I haven't seen them make the adjustments. And I haven't been shy about my opinions, especially with union staff. I'm like, why are you guys focused on the bud tender and not on the farmer? And they haven't done that, and they've like the policy mistakes we've seen replicated from state to state. I've seen the same union mistakes replicated from state to state. They go into these new states, they focus on the bud tender, they focus on the staff at the dispensary. I think they're missing the mark, because I think it's the farmer who's busting their back in the hot sun cultivating outdoor cannabis who's more likely going to benefit from that collective bargaining and from being able to institute some workplace protections. Also, to Jenny's point, the majority of workplace accidents do occur in industrial manufacturing facilities. And so, again, that's not retail either.
Fair enough. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, you know? And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a...
Our audience is very receptive.
Yes, and so just to acknowledge everyone in the chat before Jenny gets to introduce Yarrow, yes, Rico has apparently quit the show. I have tried reaching out to him. I've gotten 0 responses whatsoever, and so until further notice, that is kind of the status. And so we wish him the best and everything for his family, and much love to him and all of that good stuff. And Jenny, go ahead, take it away.
All right, coming up next, disgruntled, angriest elf on the High at 9 shelf. He's tired because he's been running errands all morning and his legs are short. But his opinions are not. Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
Let me just say, if we truly are in a post-Rico era, the show and viewers have lost an amazing anchor, a great voice. Nobody summarized an article and added original text to their presentation better than Rico. Rico inspires me to want to be a better content creator, literally. Funny as shit, bright, quick. And so if we are at the end of the Rico era, even though High at 9 News will continue to be a multifaceted, multi-presenter show, Rico brought a lot. And so it's news to me, and I would just say that, like, dedicating this show and the entire week to a man who held it down as the anchor to Jason, and I think did a tremendous job. That he's an irreplaceable influence, and yet we'll still do our best, right?
Yes, without a doubt. Well said, Yarrow. Well said. And I'm good with that. All the way, all day, every which way.
Yeah. Good dude, smart. Always funny, and was always able to push back against your regurgitated echo chamber of political talking points in a way that kept it lively.
It's actually truth.
That's what our viewers expect. So, without further ado, and never able to fill the big shoes of Lamitte, my article today is why Oklahoma officials want to crack down on hemp's unregulated THC loophole. And this is from Dale Denwalt of the Oklahoman, published yesterday, 5:40 a.m. As popularity grows in the mostly unregulated market of hemp-based THC products, Oklahoman officials are exploring ways to enforce state law on what the governor calls the unlawful manufacturing, distribution, and sale of these compounds. The products being targeted are not ones that are regulated under the state's medical marijuana laws. Instead, these are products made from hemp, which is a similar cannabis plant that naturally contains much less of the psychoactive chemical THC. After processing and concentration, its byproducts are sold virtually everywhere and anywhere a buyer and seller can meet. Examples include Delta 8, Delta 10, and other synthesized THC products that began life as a hemp plant. That's different from Delta 9, which is the most common variant of THC and found in medical marijuana that is regulated by the state. Enter Governor Kevin Stitt, who now has asked several state agencies to coordinate enforcement of the production, distribution, and retail sale of psychoactive hemp-derived cannabis products. Hemp-derived THC has seen a growing market since the U.S. Congress passed the 2018 Farm Bill, which removed hemp from the definition of marijuana and authorized hemp cultivation in the United States. Because there's little state regulation of hemp byproducts, it's easy to find. Some convenience stores sell it. It can also be found in some medical marijuana dispensaries. Buyers do not need a medical marijuana patient license. The public can also order gummies, THC-infused drinks, vapes, and other products from out-of-state retailers that are online, which is an option not available to the state's medical marijuana dispensary or medical marijuana industry. In January, DoorDash announced it began stockpiling and delivering THC products through its Oklahoma City online marketplace. When Congress authorized the cultivation of hemp, much of the discussion was about its use in its industrial context and other markets like textile manufacturing. Using it to make consumable psychoactive products remains a gray area under federal law. Some states have restricted or outright banned compounds like Delta 8 from being sold to the public. According to the National Cannabis Industry Association, at least 24 states have passed some kind of regulation about Delta 8 THC by 2023. While Oklahoma has no specific legislative prohibition against hemp-derived cannabis products, the state's drug enforcement agency believes the final products meet the definition of marijuana. Oklahoma's Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drug Control is investigating the manufacturing and distribution of items being advertised as a legal hemp product. Agency spokesman Mark Woodward told the Oklahoman in January. Evidence from our investigations indicates many of these products fit the definition of marijuana and prohibit from being sold outside a registered Oklahoma medical marijuana dispensary. For this story, the Narcotics Bureau confirmed that the agency is still conducting its investigations and has not made any enforcement actions yet. The state agency responsible for issuing licenses to industrial hemp industry, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food and Forestry, issued a memo in 2024 clarifying that products that are above 0.3% total THC level are not hemp and cannot be marketed as such. This includes any addition to the hemp or hemp product after harvest that would cause it to exceed the 0.3 total THC level, they said. Okay, so there's a little bit more to this article. I'm going to spare you having to hear me read the rest of it. I picked this article because it is a theme for me, which is my argument that cannabis is overregulated, hemp is underregulated, and that with the exception of sky-high taxes, one of the biggest threats to the regulated cannabis industry is the underregulated hemp industry. So, you guys know my biases and perspectives. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I'd like to hear what the other guests think.
Oh, lots of biases, lots of perspectives. That's for sure coming out of Yarrow Kubrin.
Yeah. And you can't wear Rico shoes because your feet are tiny. So that makes it hard.
I mean, Oklahoma, they want to clamp down on the unregulated THC loophole. I think they need to focus on cleaning up their whole medical program before they start worrying about substances that are federally legal.
Well, like in Florida, I'm sure it's pushed by any of those legal entities in that state in the medical market that are pushing to end the CBD market because they consider it competition. That's what's occurred in Florida the past two legislative sessions, and I think is occurring throughout the country. Kentucky, I think last week just modified their hemp bill. A lot of states are going to, or the liquor companies are now getting involved. If you guys haven't seen, you may have covered that last week. They tried to do that in Florida too. So I think the whole hemp space and legalization space and what's going on with hemp shows that we just got to legalize it federally and get over all this shit and all these problems that we're having throughout the country with price stabilization and, businesses getting taxed out the wazoo. So yeah, it's time we just legalize it.
Yep. Deschedule it. That's the only option. I was actually going over this with some people. We covered that story earlier in the week, or last week about the attorney general that sent the letter to that DC store. I don't know. I know Jenny was on for that, and I'm
always on.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't remember if it was in the first of the 2 days when Jesse or Yarrow were here, possibly or not, But yeah, no, I was on the phone with someone that works for that attorney general, pretty much all over the weekend, just explaining a whole bunch of things and nuances in regards to that. And man, we're gonna stay tuned and see. I don't anticipate any further action, and they did confirm that letter was simply only an inquiry, and no no further action would actually take place. So that is all fantastic news in relation with that. But this whole thing, Hawaii Sustainable hit the nail on the head. They knew exactly what I was alluding to. Oklahoma, they have all of these illegal grows, all of these different things going on out there. They need to worry about cleaning up their own thing before they start worrying about all this THCA and everything else, because at the end of the day, it's all THCA.
Well, I mean, they're just going to send it to Missouri, Jason. Isn't that what they were doing with it before?
Oh, you're funny, Jenny. Funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. I don't know. I think it's curious that they sent the inquiry in and then they were like, no further questions. I think they realized during the process of their inquiring, they don't understand this enough to even address it fully. So it's like, all right, you know what? Never mind. Sorry, I asked.
That's what I had to explain to them.
Yeah, but when they sent that letter to that dispensary, I mean, they were really sort of rolling back the idea that the Cole memo prevails. Oh, look at their sumo.
Oh, yes.
And the idea that something that was compliant with state law would be sort of hands off to the feds. It does look like it's a regression of policy.
No, it actually wasn't. It was actually a reaction. Is actually no regression in policy, per my source inside of that U.S. Attorney's office. So
you were inside the U.S. Attorney. That's crazy, Jason.
Yeah, all weekend, Jenny, all weekend.
Gross, bro.
Yeah, no.
It's not the only state that this is happening in right this second. I mean, I just read in Montana, and I was going to wait to try to report on this, but Montana's doing the same thing. Governor Gianforte, it's on his desk to sign a prohibition bill. Well, it's intoxicating hemp as well, and this is just going to march across the states as hemp continues to be unregulated, as Yarrow has said. The states are reacting, and we're getting another version of prohibition that's happening state by state by state, and it's not looking good for the future for the hemp market when it comes to that.
I think they're going to
taking advantage of this free market, and that's what's causing the problem. I
think they're going to be just fine, because I even talked with them in regards with the farm bill, and I think everyone's going to be just fine in the hemp market from what I'm hearing coming out of DC. So,
Jason, you know who's going to be fine today?
Who's that?
You, because you get some Wagyu. We got a couple super chats.
Yes, we do. We did get a super chat from Miss Anna Lewis, the CEO of Catalyst, who says, "Love and respect to the one and only Rico. Wish him all the best, and hopefully he'll come back. Either way, we will miss Rico." And we totally agree with your sentiment, Anna. And Troy Lawrence says, "They throwing me in jail now. No Rico. I'll be down there next month. Monday, JB will update these. Kagan Confidence SD Rico." I guess he's saying
Kagan Conference in San Diego. I think he's what he's saying.
Got it.
And then the C word super chat to encourage anyone to let me know where to buy my broccoli near Koalina, Hawaii. The valets at my hotel are being no help.
Interesting. Well, I'm sure we could. Yeah, I'm sure Hawaii Sustainable can help you out with that. C-word. Thank you so much for that super chat. We super appreciate all of that. And I know there's another one of our main viewers is out there in Hawaii. I'm sure someone will be able to reach out to you. And we're going to roll into our final story of the day, you guys, coming out of the great state of Maine, and where Kittery residents takes town to Maine's top court over a traffic circle marijuana shop plan. A State Road resident is taking Kittery to the Maine Supreme Judicial Court over an approved plan to redevelop La Casita restaurant into a retail cannabis shop on the town traffic circle. David Newsom, an A-butter on the of the Rotary business, is asking the state's highest court to reverse the Kittery Planning Board's April 2024 approval of the redevelopment plan for the La Casita property. The approved plan calls for the restaurant and a single-family dwelling on the property to be demolished to make a new 2,000 square foot pot shop with parking. The proposed new marijuana business would be opened by Mitch Delaney, owner of the medical marijuana shop in indico down the street on State Road. Delaney was selected at random in the town's October 2021 marijuana business license lottery and was invited to apply due to being chosen first. Oral arguments in the case begin next Tuesday in Bedford, and Newsom, a 187 State Road resident, appealed the board's decision in the York County Superior Court, which upheld the planner's approval. He argues the Supreme Judicial Court should side with his case, alleging that the town planning board did not consider his written public comment calling for a professional peer review of the applicant's traffic study included in the proposal. The Kittery resident notes the planning board did not initially fully approve a zoning boundary line extension for the project in March of 2024, but then did so at a meeting a month later. The first vote occurred when the board was short 2 members, and the application did not receive 4 votes in approval necessary to move forward. But it was taken up again and was given the green light by the board the next month when all board members were present. Court records note that Newsom additionally argues the Kittery Planning Board never informed him they intended to take up this issue again. And in a quote, the Kittery Planning Board's improper reversal of its March 28th denial and its failure to notify Mr. Newsom or to consider Mr. Newsom's written public comment violates its own bylaws, denied Mr. Newsom procedural due process, and constitutes an abuse of discretion and reversible error, reads the appellate's brief filed with the Supreme Judicial Court. Newsom brought his 187 State Road property in April of 1990 for $130,000, according to town property records, and Stephen Longsford, an attorney of the town, responded that Newsom was given all required notice by the town to weigh in on the proposed site development. The attorney added that Newsom's public written comment was not mandated by town code to be included in all future packets relating to the same application, and Langsdorff wrote in the brief. In a quote, Newsom was sent all of the required notices and was provided with all the required opportunities for participation to which he was entitled under the code and bylaws, and his procedural due process rights have not been violated. His complaint rests on a belief that he is entitled to process beyond that required by the code and bylaws, which is not the case, Langford's brief states. Both Langford and the IDC-5, Delaney's company behind the proposed La Casita site development plan, called for the residents' appeal to be denied. And Newsom's appeal is not the first time the town was subject of a marijuana-related Supreme Judicial Court case. Back in November, the High Court ruled a challenge from the High Main LLC, an Elliott-based company, regarding the town's issuance of a cannabis business license to Green Truck Farms, and should be tried in York County Superior Court, you guys. Well, big old land use issue, and this guy's is probably the big old Karen at heart, and is just saying, hey, you know what, I wasn't given my due process, but I actually think I side with the city on this because I don't think that they're obligated to include that. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I agree.
My opinion, I can't imagine that any law that someone files a grievance with or something like that. They're like,
the city
didn't include this one grievance.
Exactly. The city has to notify you. Yeah, get out of here. Like this guy's sense of entitlement is just crazy.
He's very sensitive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Much like
New Hampshire, we call people from Maine maniacs. So
yeah. I mean, New Hampshire is the live for your die state, and so but man.
That's where I'm originally from. So.
Oh, is that right? You're originally from New Hampshire?
Florida.
No way.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I have family in Vermont.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and my buddy actually lives in York, Maine, right now.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it up there in the summer.
It's gorgeous area up there. The falls are the best. The falls are absolutely the best. Jesse, you have any?
I think that's a crazy lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this guy is a big Karen. I'm sure that this guy causes lots of problems at other city meetings too. Like this isn't their first run-in with this guy, and every town has one of these. That's for sure. I've never been to a city council meeting that didn't have one of these types of people attend their meetings.
Yeah, this is just NIMBYism. This is a Karen full of NIMBYism.
Yep.
On my backyard.
Exactly. Well, and on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution and Tested, as well as Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. Thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. And thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Anthony out there in the metaverse. And Anthony, thank you so much for your work over the weekend, getting our sets all redesigned. It looks fantastic over here. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And we are off.